Hello, this is the Nuclear Family Podcast.
Yes.
And it's about traditional American Christian morals, values, the things that people say are bigoted and bad, but they're really, morals and values are great. And I'm the husband, and this is...
The wife.
The wife, yes. All right. And you had a topic that you wanted to discuss, which is about weird quitters type people, or something.
Similar, yes. I think it's more like, not necessarily just quitters, but people who give up so quickly, who get so emotional easily, and how they're so easily manipulated out of desperation that they don't stop to breathe about stuff. So, you're always more concise when you describe things than I am.
I hate emotional people too.
Yeah, it's always the most emotional people that say that.
Wow. Sick burn. So, no, I'm not concise, but why don't you give an example of what you're talking about? Like the time we went to a mall and a lady misplaced her young child.
Well, I think it's because we're sitting on the very day that our capital was invaded, you know, quote unquote, by Trump supporters or things along that lines, and everyone's online and going, oh, America's took, we're falling. It's like we have all this give up attitude, actually. And it reminds me, as I was stating, that time when we had walked into the mall and this woman was shopping like a normal woman with her toddler was with, and toddlers are nuts, they run off sometimes. And she had looked down and her little boy was gone, and she searched around where she was, and then she just started wailing for him, which is normal, you call for your kid, but she's screaming, and then eventually when she realizes he's not there, she just collapses on the ground and just wails he's gone, and she just gave up like that.
Why, Lord? Why? God, Jesus.
That's not a normal reaction, and that's what I'm seeing in people right now, even some patriot individuals. It's like everything's gone, so we either got to destroy or we need to give up, and I think that's weird. What a just strange reaction to all that is happening. I think it's people not paying attention to the senses and what's really going on. It's like, when did we become so defeatist?
So, you're saying that people should fight and they shouldn't just... Well, I don't know. I think people are expressing their emotions on the Facebook, because that's important to do.
It is not important to do.
I know. I was just kidding. I knew that already.
Yeah. No one discusses anything anymore, and no one thinks things through anymore. We react, and we became a reactionary society, and Facebook has trained us to be masters of it.
So rational thinking and logic and poise, no longer necessarily a concept.
I think not only just that, I also feel things like not understanding when your own views are contradictory isn't a concept. I think we're all really stressed out. It's a really good sign of people being way too stressed and over pushed about things, which, who wouldn't have did that this past year, but that's not a good enough reason after a while. I think what bothers me the most is that everyone's like, well, this is the end of the world. This is, we're collapsing as a society. Our government's going down. And what on earth? This is hardly the hardest thing that the world has been through. When we discuss World War II, everyone focuses on Hitler and all these, the tragedies of it, but we forget that those are people who survived that. That's something that factually happened. War factually happens. Those countries had that happen, and they're still standing. Germany's still standing. France, Italy, Russia, England. Why on earth did Americans, who were really known for being these fighting people leader, go, we're just done? That doesn't make sense. It shows a weakness of character. And
bunch of weak characters.
I also think it seems like we're so short-sighted about stuff. We can't be patient and sit back. We're not going through that much.
Not me.
But
you were talking about how people ran into the Capitol and were being crazy in Washington, D.C. I heard that they were actually let in, kind of conceptually or whatever, but and then there's evidence that those are not all necessarily what they consider themselves to be patriots. A lot of those people might potentially be the Antifa, BLM people in disguise. There's photo evidence of that in some cases, but you never know. But
I think you do know. They flat out said they were going to do this. There's interviews. It was stuff that you could see. They admitted to it. They said they were going to do it. They put up pamphlets. I've seen flyers. I have flyers downloaded onto my phone. They said dress like Trump supporters. We're going to take the Capitol.
I think some people, though, that might have been there might have been supporters.
Oh, I totally agree.
You do agree?
Oh, absolutely. You always have those people that just get to go and we're going to hop onto that train. You have the people that are so easily led. And you know those guys that were in high school? It's like, he did that, I'm going to do it next. And they just follow along. We've segregated people into being these personalities without remembering that there's sections to everybody. And I totally agree.
Okay.
Yeah. There's followers that went in there and...
Well, I think that, I don't necessarily always think that that's, like, supposed to be bad and terrible because, like, let me slow down here. Biden is sold out to communist China, complete and total sellout, proven factually, and his son and all these people, and, you have people pushing socialism, which is morally reprehensible, and communism and those things. They call each other comrade. Disgusting, disturbing, and shameful. And people don't want to see America, beautiful America, become Venezuela, right? And some sort of communist country. So if the country is taken over by dirty commies, then sometimes you gotta just, feels like, to a lot of people, you have to take it back by force. Like there was a point where the United States was owned by the British, ruled, right? And so then there was the Revolutionary War, and some people might feel like it's time to do and be that, and so they're trying to act.
I don't see things like that personally, and what's weird to me is it's good to know history, but we need to stop comparing everything as if this is the same thing. It's not. Big difference is England was in charge and we were breaking free from that. Mm-hmm. Right now, we are in charge and they're trying to take it. And the way that you don't go burning your city down. And one thing about it is, as Americans, we had standards and they have slipped so rapidly because we have this thing of going, they did it, so I'm going to. Well, that's how you collapse a society pretty quick. I don't agree with that. Like, Antifa docks people, and now you see patriots, or I actually hate using that word. It's going to be offensive to a lot of individuals. I don't think because of all these people throw around the word patriot that they are. It sounds really good. But a patriot fights to keep the country together. And if you're participating in tearing it down, then you're not a patriot. You really aren't. We had American values. And what we forgot is that you take yourself to a higher standard. And that's actually something I learned through sports and stuff. You set your standard for yourself, and the competition is yourself, and you don't lower for anybody. And that was the American value at some point. You don't lower your standards. You don't ditch to anyone else's level because you're better than that. And we're not better than anything anymore. We have slowly stooped to their level because somewhere along the lines we became defeatists who didn't think that if we had a high standard that it could be maintained or that we could reach it. And I disagree. I think what I see is so embarrassing. And I think we are sitting outside, and as I say, I won't go to a protest. I don't like protests. I do understand why Trump called people into protest today.
You could protest them?
Yeah. I'm not going to sit outside mommy's house begging, can I come out of my room? It's not going to happen. And I think that's the most pathetic thing. And you're going to have all your friends mad at me, but you know, what's new? I don't think
Give her
that.
a chance, friends.
No, I don't care. I don't mind offending people, because when you offend people, if someone gets that emotional about it, everyone who's ever annoyed goes home and thinks about it. And the problem is, if we're standing outside going, could you please allow us to have this? No. Let her sit in her capital, be bossy all she wants, thinking she has power. Go out and live your life. Open your businesses.
Are we talking about the Queen Kate Brown now?
We are. You have to quit listening to her. The problem is that she's a bully. She's all the main characteristics of a bully. Don't believe me? Go look up one video about a bully. They surround themselves with, you know, who will support every one of their crazy decisions and never stand up to them. They pick on the weaker people. They try to, you know, align themselves with people who are just as tough as them. She's a bully, but the thing is when you stand up to a bully and show that you're not afraid, you don't have to be as strong. You probably aren't as strong, and you're probably going to get beat a bunch. But them not being afraid, they do wear out. And at the same time, they hate being ignored. Bullies love attention. Stop giving her attention. Stop acting like these people matter. Politics is turned into the great American scapegoat. We can't survive our country if Trump's not in office. This election's not about Trump. We can't leave and open our businesses because Kate Brown. When as adults did we decide we were going to be parented? I'm not going to be parented. I think if our schools aren't open, it's time for us to abandon the schools and open our own schools. It's time to, absolutely, there should be a full American boycott of any sort of thing like Amazon and Walmart. And if we bonded together, we're like, what, 325 million people, I think? I don't know if I have that correctly.
That's exactly how many.
Well, what on earth are we doing shopping at Walmart and all these places? Walmart, go walk through Walmart, pick up one thing and try to find something not from China or India. Feed the American. Stop feeding the Chinese. Feed the Americans. Go down there.
Feed the wolf you want to survive.
Yeah, and so we shouldn't be asking for anyone that. We are independent Americans of freedom. And, you know, they talk about, I've watched things and they said the worst thing about Americans is how rebellious they are. Well, if you're rebelling in the right way, that's the best thing you get, and you're also the funnest people. So we've got this thing where we've listened to how much we get put down in other countries, which is true, but then why do they want to come here?
That's right. America is the least racist country in the world, and the most amazing country in the world, because that's why everyone wants to be like us, and they want to come here to America.
Yeah. You know, and we've removed so much pride. We don't understand what America is anymore. And we don't understand what it actually accomplished in the world. America is the size of Europe. We talk about the EU. The EU can't even get it right. Everyone wants to leave the EU. But that's the United States. We are United States. So each one of our states and our governors is like a prime minister. You know, Sweden is about the size of California. Iceland's, I think, about the size of Tennessee. And if we wanted to travel to New York safely, we could. We feel bad we don't speak other languages. Well, the whole world's attempting to learn English or has learned English. Well, we're like, yeah.
That's how you know you won.
Yeah, that is. We are winners here. And it's time to step into winners. Don't ask for permission. And, you know, you're competitive. But the more than that, though, it's like if our governors are like prime ministers, Trump is in charge of all of them, and we love that. We are united as more than Europe. If you wanted to go, you know, and Spain has its own language, France has its own language, Germany has its own language. They're not united. They're these separate little tribes and pods. Well, United States, it's incredible, and we've took that for granted. We had a huge educational system that in the past, I would say the 90s, it started to fall apart, but it used to be the best thing in the United States. People came here because they wanted to be us. And it's time, in my personal opinion, to, unfortunately, stop supporting anywhere in the world and only filter our money back in until we're back to where we were.
It was double for China.
Oh, absolutely. And it's time for us to not allow immigrants to come in and be in our government in any way. that is a loophole that everyone could come here as long as they're a citizen. They literally can do anything they want. And were we a nation built on immigration? Absolutely. But that time's over.
Yeah.
It's been complete. That project's done.
Yeah, that's when we were trying to settle the nation. Yeah, I mean, we have this phrase on the Statue of Liberty that says, "We will accept your tired, hungry, huddled masses," or something like that. And it's like, take that back, France. we already did. We literally finished that project. That project is done. We did that. And we got some pretty neat people, for the most part. I'd say solid 85% awesome. Maybe 70?
Sure.
70.
It's still passing.
Okay. And to say don't support communist China is because these places have no standards for the way that their industry is being done, and that's why they can do things so ridiculously cheap and economically, you know? Through slavery, that's right. So if you support slavery, buy Chinese.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, I like Chinese people. They're cute and they're cuddly. But communist China, the country, no. Knock it off.
Well, we've accepted the fact that if you start stating things like that this is a racist thing, when deep in our hearts we're like, but I'm not a racist. And they're like, well, you're a racist because you thought you weren't a how on earth did we start falling for this most ridiculous logic? Like, when did it become so mind weak that we fall for this ridiculous mind games?
It's true.
I mean, the world, all the United States, we need to learn the art of the Tucker face. When people say stupid stuff, just Tucker face them, because they don't deserve a response, because that would mean you were somehow indulging their thoughts, and you're going to be dumbed down the more you are. The more progressive, the more dumbed down you are. Progressivism, it is time to realize it is your factual enemy. It is the absolute...
It's regressive.
...opposite of every single value that was based on the United States. And
morality.
And it's
anti-morality.
Racist. It's flat out racist. The fact that we have... It's racist. We put pretty words around segregation. We've put pretty words around slavery. And somehow we all just nodded and went along because we've been too afraid. You know, Americans have been told, we're loudmouths.
What do you mean by pretty words around segregation, for example?
Are
you talking about the thing that I've heard about where they are starting affinity groups where you can be in this group if you're this race and you get to discuss racial issues. So there can be an affinity group that is strictly white people that will discuss issues of race. That's preposterous. Same thing with anybody. The way to make everyone feel positive and get along and have a functioning civilization is for everyone to be able to communicate with each other and have those kind of questions and talk openly and freely and mock the hell out of each other.
Well, they want to segregate us down and not to speak, because what's funny to me is the most patriotic individuals you find are people who have immigrated here. And somehow that doesn't get passed on in the generations, because we've became embarrassed about who we are because we supposedly have a racist past, which is not true. It is true in so many aspects, but it's completely not true. But go talk to any. Go find, if you want to find very much the most patriotic people who will tell you what it is. Go talk to any Filipino. Basically, they are the most hardcore Republicans.
My wife married a dirty Filipino.
I did.
I'm kidding. Filipinos are the chosen people.
That's true. He likes to try to brainwash me in that. But, you know, us Scandinavians are sailing the world before you're even off an island, so...
That makes me uncomfortable.
Good. And, yeah, you know, the art of BSing needs to come back. We need to get offline, remember to socialize again, and remember where we were. It used to be a time that we harassed our friends, and that's how you get along. And we are all tiptoeing on eggshells based off people we don't even like. And it's a minority. I've worked in districts when I talk to kids, and they wish teachers would teach again. They'd be just like, I'm so tired of it. They don't even care where you
were a normal person talking to the kid like the kid's a normal person.
Yeah, and so it is, you know, And it's time to start talking more. I have to admit that for a long time, I haven't spoke because I was afraid for my job. And then the COVID hit and I realized your jobs they're already took. Your lifestyle's already took. You sat silent and this was took. You started to feel sorry for who you were and it was took. Okay? If you're all like, American has fallen, that happened pretty much at the beginning of the year. What are you going to do about it? And if anyone out there, please go read The Art of War. You don't want to go out and smash and bash and take.
Sophistication.
The thing is what you want at the end of this is your life still. You want to cause as much damage to the enemy without causing damage to your civilization and your life. So it's like, you need to go out there and attack in the correct ways.
Art of War.
Absolutely.
Strategy.
And
Sun Tzu.
you need to sit back and think about stuff too. You really do need to think about, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? Stop reading articles. Go to the source. Like, I don't listen to Trump unless it's him speaking. I don't listen to Pence unless it's him speaking. Because you turn too fast. You're being influenced.
Speaking about Pence, a lot of people are saying things about Pence.
Yeah.
Didn't you have thoughts about that?
I do have thoughts about that, but I have thoughts about everything. I'm kind of a talker.
Oh, okay.
And a thinker. I do. I think that today, Pence came out and said, I'm not going to, uncertify, and I'm not going to go against these votes. And he wrote in his letter that the presidency belongs to the people. And he's directly quoting, in a way, Abraham Lincoln, who said Congress and the government belongs to the people. What he said was, I'm not going to go and change this. It's time for you guys to step in to push out your electors. At the same time, if Pence went out and goes, you're all like liars, you've all cheated, this is how it's going to go, it would look like Pence was bullied by Trump and he turned the election and the same thing was happening in his direction. And you can't win a bully like that. And the thing is Trump and Pence and everyone's in for the long game. And it seems like Americans need to take a deep breath and realize you gotta get some endurance. We're in war.
They're ops people. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Gotta have a little trust, I mean, who'd be willing to look like the bad guy to save America? I don't know.
Well, all the major predators in the world, if you look at them, they just cruise along and they hide low until they strike. Lionesses are the ones that actually hunt, but they creep in the grass and they lay low, and they lay low a long time. And they don't waste their energy on things that they can't do, but they wait for the one kill. Stingrays are the same way. Sharks are a lot like that. They're not going to waste their energy on little tiny things. But what they're doing is watching, and watching makes you know your enemy. Today, with that whole, everyone knew Antifa was going to show up, but nobody went. How on earth did they get into that Capitol so fast? We have pictures of them sitting in Pelosi's office. Really? They had time for a photo op? Our government is so unprepared that we had time for a photo op in the United States White House?
They don't even let you do that in the Oregon Capitol when you break in.
Oregon tried, I didn't agree with what happened with that. I thought it was embarrassing, and I can have people offended. Do I think they had the right to be inside of there to hear the election and what was going on with Brown? Absolutely. They were totally correct in that. But you have to pick and choose your battles. And what happened there was a bunch of guys that, what if something really does start going down in the United States? We are at a brink of a civil war, and then you have these 5 patriots sitting in jail unable to
be with their families
and really protect what's real. Brown's a waste of time. She's an absolute embarrassment. She's buddied up with the whole West Coast. She's bought and owned by China.
So the ways to handle Brown: open up all of Oregon completely. And if you're worried, knock it off.
Well,
open up anyway. And get the fines. Fight them in court. I think you'll win. There are some attorneys and places in Oregon that actually, was it on commercial? There seems to be a pro-America attorney there.
Really?
But
that's in Salem, Oregon.
Yeah.
But more than that, and I'm going to stream through my phone at the moment. There we go. There is a People's Rights Oregon, who seems like they're mostly out of Central Oregon, dealing with Prineville and Bend, but they're listing this stuff up, and they're doing the exact same thing. And so that could become a whole thing. We need to unionize. You need to just open, and you need to just ignore it. And and I'm not saying it's not stressful, and is it terrifying? And I am talking bold because my main job was working in the school district, and who knows if I get that back. I mean, I've been attacked online for saying if teachers won't go back to work, I'll work their job, and then I've been attacked for that. And it's like, well, doesn't that make sense? That I'm a sub. That's literally my job. Are you going to be offended? I take your place while you're not there. That's the actual description of my job. The thing is,
kids need school. They need school. Like, yeah, I don't know what else to say. They're sad and miserable and not learning.
Well, we've become a nation of fear, and how embarrassing. You're afraid of a virus that you can't see, and does it kill people? I believe it's real, but I believe the flu's real, and on average 30,000 people die of the flu a year, and that does include young people. In fact, there's a joke in school districts called like the 5-year flu, but anyways, it's basically when you start a school district, your first 5 years as an employee and a teacher, you're basically gone all the time because you're so sick all the time until your immunity catches up. You have to start living. You can't hide from germs. You're not going to get away from it. We're hiding when what you need is immunity. And what you need to do is also, if someone's like not wearing a mask and they're trying to explain something to you, we've somehow thought that it's cool to yell at people now. Like, we were discussing doing a podcast, and we think we do need a thorough podcast, but when did we become a people who gets to go up and yell at people and tell people what to do and tell people off and be so rude?
Do you think people should try to communicate, like, nicely?
I think people should leave other people alone. And then if it's bothering you, the odds are really good what's bothering you isn't the mask and it isn't the virus. It's that you're so frustrated and upset and scared and angry that it comes out and you're taking it out on people. Like when you've had a bad day at work and you go home and you take it out on your kids or your husband. We've all been there. That's what's happening.
I think people are also often so stagnant in their houses that they're looking for a battle and a cause, like you said, the frustration. But people are often looking for a cause to fight and battle. Figure out how to be productive.
Yeah. Well, that's something we definitely orchestrate and hone in the school districts too. It's like see something, say something. We've put them on the green movement and all these sort of things. And so when they're doing these sort of things, everyone feels like a hero. And the problem is the only people who are actual heroes that get remembered are people who work. You don't get to run your mouth and be remembered. It's people who work. That's one reason people love Trump. People love Trump because, number one, you look at him, I know, and I'm going to speak as a guy. I think most guys look at him and go, I could get a beer with that guy, he'd be funny.
I will speak as a guy too. And I would love to get a beer with him.
Yeah. So he seems real. He seems like a family man. Everyone's put him down so much, but that man holds his family close. And he keeps them close because he has to. They're in danger. And so everyone gets upset about that. But what would you do if you had children? And so he's relatable. He's funny. I swear to God, I voted just because he's funny. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But what people, for women, and we need to take back being women, what people don't get and men don't understand is everyone's like, why does he get those women? He's a man. He says something, he does something, he says no, and he stands his ground, and that's hot. It's so hot for men to be men. Even the Proud Boys discussed up in Portland, like when they would riot and stuff, that afterwards, like a lot of women would track them down, even women who are like Antifa and things along the lines. You can't help it. There is a natural instinct in women. We want to be secure, we want to be protected, we want to be a little idolized and loved, and we want someone who's passionate and strong, and that's what he is. Who he looks like, if something doesn't happen his way, he looks for 1,000 different ways to get it done, and it's going to get done, and that's what we need to be more of. And what I'm really seeing, and I'll let you talk in a minute, I can see it, what frustrates me so much right now is how much I'm seeing women step up and seeing so many individuals, just women stepping in. We have Oregon Women for Trump, and I'm not saying women shouldn't do that, but it's sad how many men aren't this anymore. Men should be stepping into these roles and taking things back and coming back, being strong. We've been demoralized for being naturally who we are. And that has to be took back.
Like femininity, that kind of thing?
every person has a blend of those things, but you have to become who you are. And men are strong, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it's hot. It's so freaking hot, and it doesn't
I
matter
can
what you look
lift
like.
like a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he's annoying. You know, it's like,
Can open almost any jar.
yeah, no, it's the whole reason I married
Yeah,
him.
with medium effort. Medium, not a lot of effort. Almost any jar, medium effort. And, like, yeah, that's just mainly what I wanted to say.
Yeah, well, it's like, you know, it's the problem is we never tell everyone it's okay.
It's okay
It's
that I
okay.
can do that.
You know, and that doesn't take away from people who are gay or, you know, transgender and things along that lines. The whole reason we're in this situation is everyone's so scared about being who they are and that they might be rejected. And that comes around, as little kids, we don't worry about that. We start worrying about that as teenagers. And the reason why we're so afraid is we've never ventured to talk to people to realize they're a lot like me. We have a lot in common. We have same fears. And you have to open up. And we just don't talk anymore. The basic parts of society have been took through us through media. You know,
Well, I was actually communicating with some people on BFB, Facebook, whatever, earlier today. And, like, people who I've even known for years, and they're like, you coordinate with fascists, you must be a racist, or, like, you've talked to a Proud Boy, you're a racist, and it's like, you've known me for, like, a million years, been to your house, like, a million times, and it doesn't even make any sense that you would say that someone was a racist for knowing a group that is led by a Cuban man and full of people of color, like black people, Asians, like they don't have some sort of race requirement. And because I've spoken to them, apparently that would make me racist to someone who's known me forever, that I've spent time with, that is a person of color. These are exhausting. All these words are exhausting.
well, everyone should talk to everyone.
That's
How
right.
on earth are you ever going to grow as a person? You know, Jordan Peterson, who they've took down, and they took down because that man could change people. If you have not watched Jordan Peterson and you feel like you can't figure your life out, or you feel lost, or just heck, you breathe, go watch him. He discussed that you should always listen to everyone because there's always something you can learn. It isn't, maybe it's beneficial, and maybe eventually there's something you can impart. Every person has good and bad in them, and that is the fallen nature of humans. But the people can be built up to anything. It's so funny, is I had a comment online about, I said something about how, it was actually to do with the Proud Boys, where I don't remember what I said, and the guy responded to me going, yeah, I would assume that's what you would think. And I wrote on there, and I'm like, well, of course you would think that, and you would agree with that. You don't know me, you made something up about me, and you're going to believe yourself more than you're going to believe me, because you just made it up about yourself.
Yeah,
like,
someone
about
said
me.
that to me, and I'm like, you don't even actually know me, and I don't know you. So I don't know why you're being weird and stupid.
It's a weird thing to say, and it's you going, you're not saying something I want to hear or I like. And the follow-up with that is a question of understanding. And no one does that anymore. That's how you get to know people. It's how you get to be friends. How many married people discuss, I didn't even like that person. I didn't even like him when I met him. And then you're married to him. We are one of them. Like, you were kind of off, and your humor wasn't something I was used to. Go talk to that person. It's like, you don't know, you could meet the funnest, the best love of your life, and you're being held back. It's a communication thing. Another thing is, we forget it's okay to disagree. It's okay to be friends with someone who voted for Biden, and it's okay to be friends with someone who voted for Trump, and it's okay to disagree. That's all right. It's good. It makes variety in the world, and you might actually discuss something and discover things and maybe change the other person, or they'll change you.
I'd love that, because there's all these people who I would love to talk to, and there is a very solid fear of your narratives and thoughts and feelings being questioned. There is a huge fear of somebody questioning your perspectives. Don't be afraid. Just take that ride.
Well, that's one thing is like I think thing is people kind of stolen that by saying red pill and things along that lines. I think we give all these coined words out there and it becomes like associated with something and it makes people fearful. you're supposed to change as you grow older. If you are saying, I'm just like I was when I'm 20 and you're 40, you messed up and you better go out there and start thinking about yourself a little more. You're not supposed to be the same person you were. You're supposed to work on yourself nonstop. You're supposed to become a better you all the time. You need to stop and think and read and exercise, and your goal in the end is to constantly search for truth, and not truth that's been decided for you, but actual truth. And you need to work on yourself. And one way you do that is by interacting. And then sometimes you interact with people and you go, glad I ran into that person. I want to be nothing like that. And it's a good warning, you know? And that's why the human experience is so important. But also, that's like, if you're not going to be willing to talk and ask questions and read and think and talk to people, that like basically collapses a district of schooling too, because that's what education's based on. It's based on questioning.
People really change when they get older, so whatever thoughts and feelings and passions you have inside, be willing to conceptually let them go. Because long ago, I was a radical left type person by default. Just a default. Because, anyway, I used to hate guns. I thought guns are used to kill people, and killing people's bad. And then I used to think I was pro-abortion, pro-baby murder. We should just call it baby murder. That was a long time ago when I heard people say things like someone's body's their choice or something, and babies weren't people, they're cells. Turns out I'm cells, and I'm a people, and I figured it out.
You did figure it out?
I figured out that babies are people too, even the ones inside the women's tummies. Those are people. Those are little living people with feelings. And so it's just simply not nice to murder them. And it is nice to have guns, because here's an example. Let's say someone wanted to murder my people that live in my house. I'd like to murder them first. It's called self-defense.
I'm not sure about your PSA today.
Well, it's an important
the thing
thought
is,
process.
it goes two ways, and I think this needs to work on conservatives and things just as much. Like I'm a pretty staunch environmentalist, but you have to put it in perspective. Like, I don't want old growth and all that kind of stuff to be destroyed, but I also recognize that majority of the forests we have are actually just crops. They are built and designed as crops, you know. And it's important to educate yourself on how nature and all that really works. Like I'm absolutely pro oil, but I'm not pro for a lot of the ways that it's handled in some ways. And you have to really understand that everything is a mix. There's no solid answers with everything, but you can get close to a really good idea of what things should be like. And if we don't interact, then we're really stifling ideas that could move us better and forward in many ways.
I think we're being modest. If you have any questions, ask us, because we do have all the answers. And they're all correct.
Well, I think at least with us, and I think it should be, and I mean, I don't want to put myself on too much of a pedestal. If something bothers me, I'll sit and think about it. And I don't always search for ideas. I like to sit and think, and we forgot about that. Everyone's like, why don't we have inventions and all that stuff? Everyone's on a nonstop basis of being distracted 24/7. You have a computer, you have a phone, you have a TV, and no one stops and thinks anymore. And it is a stressful thing. And we're even busy hiking and everything along that lines on a nonstop basis. So there's always a busy going on. We became a culture of that. And it's good to stop and think. And it's good to stop to see things.
That's her thing.
It is.
I don't want to stop and think too much.
He doesn't ever.
Medium amount. What I like to do is I like to make these little videos.
Well, you're a doer, though. You've accomplished things that it's incredible. So.
I do stuff. What can I say?
It really does. Yeah. So, but what I guess I'm saying with all of this is, everyone has to stop and think. You have to start balancing ideas and thoughts and processes. And the problem is, if you stop and think, you might piece things together and things might make sense.
That's what you do.
Well, it's important.
So you don't think someone should just take everything at face value instantly when they hear it from CNN?
Only when it's you talking, maybe. Well, CNN. I think it's so funny because the thing is it applies to all media. I struggle with it. I don't lose loyalty as fast as everybody else. Like, everyone turned against Tucker Carlson. But I understood at the same time, he was dealing with the Bob Linsky guy, which I freaking love that name. It's the best name ever. But he was revealing all of that, and then he's took down, and it's by his own followers because they throw a few things out there. It's like Fox News failed. Fox News failed in a lot of things. But you got to look at the individual. He was in the middle of taking Hunter Biden down, releasing information, and then you took it down with it. And it's funny. It's like you have to be okay with looking at general evidence and a general way of a person is. We are not perfect. We're fallen beings, and everyone's going to mess up. But if majority of that individual is solid and good, or at least has a hope for it, you have to acknowledge that. It's like with kids, you see all these kids are troubled youth, you got to step in. People are not fallen, they are not disposable. If you're anti-abortion, you have to be, those people aren't disposable. But if they're unwilling to change, that's when you have to go, don't cast pearls before swine, you have to step in. And I feel that with the Democratic Party right now. I think the most peaceful thing we could do is just open up and stop asking and stop shopping at areas that are, corporate owned. The best way to know something's corporate owned is look at the amount of people. Like I'll shop
the websites and stuff.
Well, I'll shop at Fred Meyer's. Fred Meyer's has a ton of employees, but I hate Walmart. They're both really involved in Kroger.
And if you want to go shopping without a mask, just call me. I'll go with you.
Yeah, and I think there's a protest in Salem, Oregon on Saturday? What day is today?
Right. At DeWinco.
Yeah.
Because they picked on an old lady.
Who picks on old ladies?
You're not supposed to. Technically, it's in the rule book that you're not supposed to pick on the old ladies.
We've lost our respect for elders. But, there is time for violence. But you have to know where it goes. And, and I know that's something that people will go, oh my goodness, how could you say that? Like, you're Christian. But there was a point when Jesus said you are to carry your sword. But no one said this was going to go well. And as Christians, this isn't going to go well. Every disciple died a brutal murder. Every one of them. And you have to maybe go out with a spark a little bit, and not, life hurts, life sucks, life's hard.
What does that mean, go out with a spark?
It means if you're going out with it means, I don't know, maybe I should put it in a different way. It means you have to put some effort in there and throw some fire in and get some energy going. And it means you can't just, you gotta cause a ruffle.
And be sophisticated.
It means
classy. Don't
go trashing things. Do things right, but at the same time, like, don't go trashing Winco, but start going without your mask. Start paying cash. That'll annoy them. If you don't want to take your mask off, start paying everywhere with cash. Because they're not supposed to have cash anymore. Going, oh, but it's money. And they love money. Cryptocurrency's a thing. We have this coin shortage. How did anyone fall for that one? That's a Tucker face moment.
Yeah. Maybe we should wrap it up.
We should wrap it up. We have to go get kids.
Okay, so what was the point of all this?
We talked.
Stop being wimps. Be awesome. And hold yourself to a high standard.
And step back and watch. Start piecing things together. Start thinking things through. Take a moment. Stop judging things so fast and being so defeatist.
Exactly. Look at the whole picture. Look at both sides. Take a deep breath. Count to 10. Wish upon a star. And we'll see you next time.
And remember, a whole herd of gazelle may be 100 or 200, but they're scared of the one lion.
Ooh.
I know, that was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're good. All right.